Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. This is Coffee with Katie. And my fourth wing mug today. And as you can see, I have started the process of moving and it is very chaotic. So today's video is going to be a book tag. This is the Fave of Faves book tag. Becky from Bex Reads started this and I'm a sucker for a good book tag, so I had to do this. I know I just did a book tag recently, but I am in the chaos of moving and sometimes you just need one less thing to think about, as you can see by my empty shelves here. I've left these up so it's not just completely bare. But eventually everything's going to be changing here, and it's scary but crazy and good, exciting. All of that rambling being said, let's get into these questions. I thought this was really fun. It's just talking about a lot of favorites, so let's just get into it. Question 1 is, what is your favorite book this year? I have to say, The Exquisite Torment of Loving Your Enemy by Brigitte Knightley. I've already talked about this duology and this book multiple times on my channel, so I'm sorry if you're sick of it, but I love it. It's really funny. It's got adventure, it's got mystery, it's got banter. I laughed a lot reading this duology. While there's, I would say, a handful that I could say are my favorites of the year, I feel like this is the one that I had so much enjoyment of and didn't want it to end and just had such good feelings about. So I feel like this one has to take the cake. Question 2 is, what was your favorite book from 5 years ago? So I was looking at this, that would be 2021. I actually read so many amazing books that year. That was like one of my big reading years where I got into so many series. I got into Caraval, I got into like Six of Crows, like Vicious, like so many books that I read that I really enjoyed and really liked. I don't really know why, but for some reason I read a lot of great books that year. But there's a couple of obvious ones, I kind of hinted at it already, that I'm gonna leave for other answers. So, your book from 5 years ago, I would have to say either A Court of Mist and Fury by Sarah J. Maas, because that book took over my life, or Clockwork Prince by Cassandra Clare, because the Infernal Devices series is so good. And if you read the Shadowhunters universe and you read like the first trilogy, or you read the first series of like 7 books and you were just like, I don't really understand the hype. The first couple books were good, but then it kind of like fell off, whatever. That trilogy is so good. It's so good. And I love the kind of like steampunk-esque aspects of it. And I feel like that's, you can't even say that, but there's like some mechanical components and like robot automaton components to the book. It's also set in kind of like older England, so it's got those types of parties and dress and banter, but the humor in that, I laughed so many times again reading that book. And I remember there's a quote about saying people are a color and like the color is gross or not gross or like a certain color, and they were like, well, what color are you? And he was like, I'm obviously mauve. And I just remember laughing hysterically at that book, but also being so emotionally invested in it, and I loved it. Same with Akamath. Maybe not hilarity necessarily, but emotionally invested. Question 3 is your favorite book under 300 pages. I feel like there's a handful I could maybe play with in this category, but I think this one deserves to take the crown, and that's All Systems Red by Martha Wells. I love the Murderbot Diaries, and this is the first book in the series, and that, you know, pitched me into the Murderbot Diaries, and I loved it. It's just so hilarious. Maybe I just need to read funny books because I tend to like them. It's a sec unit, which means it's like this, it's not like a cyborg. It's like a hybrid between a human and a robot, but it's not a human. It's just got like a facial, they like created a facial structure and a body type of a human, but it is a robot. And they're programmed to do certain things. So it's called a murder bot because it's programmed to be like this military unit that helps people when they're traveling in space or doing certain dangerous missions to kind of be recon for them, to rescue them, to defend them. They're not supposed to have their own like conscious or thought. It's just, they're just supposed to follow orders and be protective. But this particular sec unit hacks his module, and he doesn't have his governing module, and he doesn't have to follow the orders anymore, but that is dangerous because it's now considered a rogue, and if he is found out, he will be like disposed of, like refurbished, basically. So he has developed his own personality, and all he wants to do is watch TV, and it's really, really funny. He also has social anxiety, so he hates interacting with people, but he also is trying to do his job and to protect them and be a good robot, and it's just so great. I loved it. Question 4 is your favorite standalone book. I feel like I was scrolling through books that I had read, and I was like, what could it be? A standalone? What is it? And then I was like, oh, Alchemized. Alchemized by Sin Lin Yu, of course. Why would it not be? I love Manacled, and I love Alchemized, so it has to be that one, for sure. Just the necromancy element that they bring into Alchemized specifically is really interesting, but it's just such a hauntingly beautiful, heartbreaking story about war and evil and the devastations of war and trauma and how you overcome that. Maybe not even overcome it, how you deal with it, how you figure life out, and how it can tear you apart, but if you've survived, you can make it. Question 5 is a favorite 4+ book series that you've completed. That's an interesting caveat, because I would say there's a few series that I would say I love, or I potentially would love, but I haven't necessarily finished them. And this is hard. I think, honestly, I try to steer away from series that are really long. Like, I haven't finished Red Rising because it's so many books, and I'm afraid of pain, honestly. Dungeon Crawler Carl, I haven't finished the series. I've read the first book. Aragon, I've read all of these, but I don't know if I could say, like, that's my favorite, you know? I love the Caraval series, but Caraval and Once Upon a Broken Heart are both 3 books. So, you know, there's just a level. I feel like I tend to read a lot more trilogies and quartets than I do long series, and that's partially because I don't want to. So I think, if I was being honest, it would be Harry Potter by J.K. Rowling, because it's one of those series where I loved every book. Even if I loved some books more than others, like, the whole series was just really, really good, and I really liked it. So I think that would have to be my favorite. I've read Throne of Glass, but I skipped Assassin's Blade and Tower of Dawn, but still not my favorite. Wouldn't say it's my favorite. I've read ACOTAR, but it's not finished, so I haven't completed it, you know? Fourth Wing would probably be at some point, but again, not finished. So I think Harry Potter would have to take the crown for this particular question. It's a little wizard kid, and he's growing up and learning about a prophecy that he never wanted, and he never wanted to be a part of, Trojan One trope, that I love. And he has to deal with that, and then so many other amazing things happen in the story, and it's so magical and wonderful and evil, good versus evil, and just so many things. Complexity, hilarity, friendship, great things. Question 6 is a favorite book with a trope that you hate, which I do think is funny because this does happen. You have a trope that you absolutely hate, but somehow the book overcame those obstacles and is still one of your favorites. And I think for this, obviously a little bit spoilery, it's going to have to be, but I think for this I would go with Long Live Evil by Sarah Reese Brennan, because this does utilize the resurrection trope, but it does it in a really interesting way that I really enjoyed, and I loved this book. Literally the back says, a story for everyone who's ever fallen for the villain. Hello, say less. Following a character who is, in modern day, she's destined to die. She's terminally ill. She has cancer. A mysterious stranger comes to her and tells her that she can go into her favorite fantasy series as a character. If she can find this flower and bring it back, she'll live. Magical flower. But she is transported into a villainess who is destined to die, and she has to try to figure out what to do. And the characters are crazy because some of them are from the real world that are playing these characters in the book. Some of them are the actual characters. There's a lot of magic that's not super well explained, but there's like these gods and this system. I think the magic will get more explained later in the series. But there are these like magical things. There's a lot of like good warriors and political games and dancing around and stuff like that. It's an interesting series, and I think it does stuff that's a little bit unique and different. and I really love it. I really like the second one too, but we're going to see how it wraps up in the third. Question 7 is favorite book with an unappealing cover. I feel like in theory there should be a lot more of these, but when I was thinking favorite, the one that I settled on was A Lady's Guide to Scandal by Sophie Irwin, because I'm not a fan of this cover. I just think it's kind of mid, not great. I really like the Illumicrate cover that I have, but this one is just kind of like, I don't like it because it looks boring. It looks like you don't really understand the story in the basis of it. Like, it doesn't have anything to do with the story, pretty much, except having a couple characters on the cover. I feel like you don't get an idea of what the story's about. You don't really understand what it's about. I feel like it's not very eye-catching. It's kind of boring. It's kind of weird. So I don't love it. I don't love it. Love the story, though. Love the, like, Regency romance situation where she had married a really old man that didn't really care about her, and then she's now a widow, and she's going to inherit this fortune, but she has to, like, conduct herself appropriately in order to inherit this fortune. But she wants to be her own person for, like, once in her life. And I loved this story. It had me, like, kicking my feet and giggling. It's just, like, a precious story, but it's also empowering at the same time. I loved it. Question 8 is a favorite book with a 3.5 or less average rating. This one is kind of crazy to think about because I tend to ignore those ratings, especially if a book sounds interesting to me. But there are so many people that rate books that you, like, absolutely love and they hated them. But I think for this one, it actually caught me off guard. I did not expect this one to have this low of a rating. The Astral Library by Kate Quinn. I can't believe this rating is so low. It was amazing. I gave it 5 stars. I really liked it. It was compelling. It talks about a lot of issues where, disparaging in poverty and how people don't have opportunities that other people have because they have to work a long time, or if one thing can set them back and then they just keep getting set back and set back and set back and they can't get their feet up, they can't get their feet under them. But a public library is supposed to be like a safe place for them. How she's able to go to this public library and dive into stories that are owned by public domain. But you get to go into these stories and you get to experience these worlds. You get to escape abuse and horrible situations. Like, it was such a good story. I loved it so much. And apparently no one else did. Apparently majority of people don't. I thought it was so good. So it's crazy to me that that's a thing. And then question 9 is favorite book with a title that starts with the same letter as your first name. Caraval. I feel like that's like the easiest game for me at this moment. Although I will say, when I first read Caraval, I think I gave it 3.5 stars, 4 stars. I didn't give it a super high rating because I did really, really enjoy it, but it's also one of those things where I feel like when you first start reading, you don't know how to rate a book. And you're like, well, it wasn't the best thing I ever read, but I really liked it, and blah, blah, blah. And you get, like, in your head about it, and now I just rate based on how I feel. And this would probably be higher. But, because I'm one of those people that never wants to put the highest or the lowest. I always want to put it, like, somewhere else. But Caraval, if you've been on my channel for any amount of time, you've heard me talk about this series. I love it. It's one of my favorite series ever. It's definitely my favorite YA series, but it's one of my favorite series ever. I enjoyed how magical and whimsical it was. I enjoyed the characters and the fates and just so much of this world. I loved it so much. So I have to say Caraval for sure. Thankfully, it starts with the same letter as my name. And then question number 10. What is your favorite book of all time? Can you guys guess? Because I've said it many times. Yes, indeed. Fishes by V.E. Schwab. I fell head over heels in love with this book. And as soon as I was done with it, I was like, this is it. Like, if somebody ever asks me, what's your favorite book of all time? Like, what's the one book? It's this one. I love it so much. It's fantastic. I can't get enough of it. This is like a beat up old copy that I've lended out to people. And I have special editions that are like pristine, but this is like the OG. And I'm taking it with me when I'm moving as like a comfort because it's just my favorite. It's amazing. It's following two college roommates who used to be best friends, but in modern day they hate each other and they're trying to get revenge on each other, and you don't know why. So the book kind of does split timelines, and they do a lot of flashbacks, and they'll do like 10 years ago, yesterday, today. Like it bounces around a lot. So that's part of it. And then they're also they're like pre-med students or medical students, and they're trying to figure out if there's a way to give people extraordinary abilities, because they see these people with extraordinary abilities. They see these people in like the news that have these abilities, and they're like, how does one acquire them? And they think they figured out a formula to do that, and it goes from there. It's fantastic. I loved it. As somebody that really has loved superhero stories, particularly my whole life, and morally gray characters, silver platter. It's amazing. I cannot wait to read Victorious in a couple months. Oh, I might cry. I might get emotional about it because I'm so excited. Anyway, Vicious by V. Schwab. Love this. The best book ever. Well, those are all my answers to the Fave of Faves book tag. Thank you, Becky, for creating this tag. It was a lot of fun. I'll have to look at some other tags you've created. I love book tags, so if you want to participate in this, I would love to see your answers, whether you make a video or you just post them in the comments down below. I will watch them because this is a lot of fun. But for now, that is it for today's video. Please like this video if you liked it, subscribe if you want to, and I will see you next time. Stay safe and caffeinated. Bye.